My cross-media campaign is called Tamworth Local, focusing on the local environment of my hometown. I wanted to encourage people to take better care of nature and wildlife in my area, and to encourage parents and kids to engage more with the outdoors. In order to achieve this, I ran my campaign across 3 different media platforms. The first was a print campaign, with posters placed in high footfall areas of my local town. Secondly, social media was used. Instagram and Facebook were chosen for my campaign, as Instagram is an overtly visual platform that is well suited for my materials, and Facebook has several wide-reaching community groups from my local area, allowing me to target my local area better. Finally, I made radio materials to be used on a local radio network, Radio Tamworth. Linking and syncing my campaign will be a main consideration during my campaign. I plan to use my social media accounts as a central hub for my campaign activity. This is because it will be easier to use a more digital platform to synchronise the rest of my campaign. However, I will link my radio and print campaign by mentioning my social media handles on both. This will help generate a greater audience who may be unable to find my online profile, especially on apps and websites as oversaturated and overcrowded as Facebook and Instagram. My social media will also work the same in reverse, encouraging locals to look out for my print campaign and to listen out for my radio campaign. I also plan to run a social media event to link my print campaign more firmly with my social media, called #LoveTheLocal, which I will discuss further later on. Radio adverts will also be mentioned online, with upcoming slots being advertised on my accounts. Since my adverts are also under 1 minute in length, they can be posted online to Instagram. If I do end up doing this, I will likely pair it with a small visual aid prior to posting so that the 2 platforms are better linked and synchronized. My house style has developed to include several key features, the main feature being my campaign logo, a white swan. In any of my original materials I included the swan so that the materials were linked and synchronized across my platforms. Of course, this didn't work for my radio materials as they were purely audio based and non-visual, but it helped link my social media and print campaign effectively. I also used a dedicated colour scheme and iconography throughout my visual campaigns. I tended to use cooler colours relating to nature, such as blues and greens, which helped convey my intended message. The main focus was shifted to green so that my materials better stood out on the blue-dominated Facebook. I also used a dedicated typeface to ensure my campaign materials were completely linked across print and social media. The Lato font was rated as professional looking by my pre-test focus groups, over other fonts such as Antonio, which was rated as looking amateur, and Arial, rated as boring by the same group. I found this house font helped maintain my readers' attention, as it is professional enough to make my campaign appear more legitimate and authentic, but not boring enough to remind working parents, my target audience, of paperwork and other monotonous text they'd rather ignore. Message repetition is important for any campaign. Throughout the campaign I repeated 3 core messages: the importance and beauty of local nature, encouraging children to engage with nature, and the ease of access to local nature reserves. My consistent and constant way of doing this was through the use of captions on my social media. Updates on Facebook and captions on Instagram focused on these messages, as well did some of my materials. For example, I reposted several images to my campaign Instagram to help share the beauty of nature with my local audience. My posters that I put up encouraged parents to take their kids to an accessible reserve, helping me convey 2 of my core messages. Post to social media also included other materials I designed specifically to share these messages. For example, one of my personally preferred materials is the GoldenEye Duck post, which includes the parking prices for the local RSP reserve, Middleton Lakes. The duck was photographed at the same reserve, and the rest of the image was designed to let everyone know that the finances shouldn't stop you from engaging with the local environment. Finally, my radio script stressed the very same messages. I attempt to fit the current media motif of edgy, out-there advertising focused on the ease of access component. I also used hashtags to promote and connect my social media posts. This helped synchronize my Facebook and Instagram posts, especially as Instagram has a convenient post to Facebook option when sharing a post, which made synchronizing my post time and hashtags low effort. Hashtags increase exposure on these platforms, especially on Instagram, where users can follow dedicated hashtags. By using popular, nature-related hashtags, I increased my like and follow count. However, I could have improved my print campaign by using hashtags on the posters. This would have better linked my print and social media campaigns together, rather than just including my handle. I did end up finding a way to link my social media campaign and my posters together using hashtags, although the hashtags still weren't prominently featured within the print campaign. I plan to run a small-scale social media challenge, where people have to photograph themselves in front of one of my posters. They then have to post these pictures online with the hashtag #LoveTheLocal for a chance to win a £20 voucher for a meal. The voucher was kindly provided by my place of work. My radio adverts all mention my social media handles at some point, allowing me to link my radio campaign with my social media. This was important as it would otherwise be difficult to form a meaningful link between the radio and other platforms for my campaign. All my radio ads end on the same sound of crickets, helping create a more uniform style to the otherwise radically different adverts. My posters link to my social media as well, including my handle, slogan and campaign logo. Finding ways to link between a digital platform like social media, a more traditional platform like print, and a purely audio-based platform like radio was difficult for my campaign. In the end, I had all the campaigns linked back to my social media, where I could make posts dedicated to the other platforms. This was useful as my social media can act as a hub for my campaign distribution. This will allow me to post my print materials or even my radio adverts in a video format, generating further exposure for them. While this is my less preferred approach to ensuring my materials reach as many people as possible, it would be useful to better link the different aspects of my campaign together. My social media campaign will have a post-release schedule. Throughout the campaign, I will aim to post at least once a day. This will be done at 3 PM to 4 PM, as posting too early or too late in the day can affect the overall viewership of my posts. This scheduled release pattern will be less important for my other two campaign platforms. I plan to keep my posters up in my local area over the 5-week duration of the campaign, as posters need multiple viewings before the audience actually pay any conscious attention to them. If I were to constantly rotate the posters, the message I am trying to send may be lost or missed by a significant portion of my audience. During my 5-week period, I plan to introduce all 3 of my planned radio adverts. This is to see which style of advert works best for my target audience and to make my radio campaign more varied in content. By rotating radio adverts, I hope to avoid issues with boring or worse, annoying my target audience. My radio adverts may be heard repeatedly over the course of the campaign, so offering a variety of audio material will prevent the audience growing tired and irritated with the radio campaign, which can affect their perception of the rest of my cross-platform campaign. I also plan to have the advert I find less creative and more boring to air on the last week of the campaign, allowing my more creative radio adverts to generate more airtime. The more boring campaign I'm speaking of is my Did You Know advert. I plan to optimise my social media campaign publicity with hashtags. Although this is more popular on a digital platform such as Twitter, they can still be used on Instagram and Facebook to a similar end. However, I don't plan to use hashtags to engage my local audience, as hashtags will make my campaign more accessible and broad. Instead, I hope to use these hashtags to gain the support of similar, nature-related accounts on Instagram. This will give my campaign greater authenticity. I may use more locally tailored hashtags to try and engage a local audience, but this will be much less effective than my more broad hashtags that focus on nature lovers in general. Hashtags on Instagram can also be followed, which will also help me reach a nature-loving audience more easily, giving my campaign legitimacy. Hashtags will also help me reinforce my campaign message of getting involved in nature and loving your local environment. Reinforcement of my campaign message won't just be done using hashtags, however. My campaign message tested as clear with my original focus group, allowing me to stay on message and on brand throughout my campaign. Even my social media event, #LoveTheLocal, is named to reinforce the message and my campaign's local scope. Repetition will play a key part across all my campaign platforms. Since I'm only using the one print campaign, it will be on message over the entire duration. My radio adverts will be repeated over 2-week intervals, with my final Did You Know advert being aired for the final week. This will allow enough time for each of the adverts to broadcast my intended message to my target audience of local parents and grandparents. My social media campaign will focus on being on brand with every post. using nature-related hashtags, reposting or sharing images and information from nature-related accounts or local accounts, and using my own materials designed and tested to specifically convey my campaign message.